Hey everyone, and welcome! Today, we're diving into something fascinating, a political persuasion blueprint that's all about emotion, not facts. You know, a communication style that's designed to build these really powerful, almost unbreakable bonds. So let's get right into it.
So, have you ever found yourself wondering about this? You see some political message, and it just clicks with people. It hits them on this deep gut level, and it creates this bond that seems totally unbreakable, right? No matter what facts or figures you throw at it? That's the big question we're going to tackle today.
Okay, and right up front, I want to be crystal clear about something. This is not about comparing politicians or taking sides. No, we're doing a kind of rhetorical analysis here. We're just breaking down how this communication technique actually works, how it builds identity and loyalty, not who is using it.
So what's the real difference here? Well, it really boils down to two totally different ways of communicating. On one side, you've got this emotional bonding. It's all based on identity, loyalty. It's about creating a movement. And on the other side, you have your classic argumentative persuasion. That's all about evidence, facts, and the goal is to create understanding. These aren't just slightly different tactics. We're talking about completely different endgames.
All right, to really get a handle on this technique, we've got to look back at its historical blueprint. I mean, a time and place where it was laid out with, honestly, some chilling clarity. And look, the point here isn't to make a lazy, direct comparison to today. It's about analyzing the strategy, the conscious, planned decision to put emotion way ahead of reason.
And this quote, wow, it's just so powerful because of how direct it is. You almost never see a primary source that spells out the game plan so explicitly. Building a movement on emotion and action, and deliberately, intentionally sidelining reason. It really just reveals that choice to mobilize people through how they feel, not through critical thought.
But look, this isn't just ancient history. Of course not. Using emotion in politics, that's nothing new. A lot of great democratic leaders use it, and they use it really effectively. The critical point, the real red line we're looking at, is when loyalty to a person or a movement is demanded above the truth, and especially when that movement starts pointing fingers and marking minorities as scapegoats.
So, how is it actually done? You know, what are the specific words, the phrases, the linguistic tricks used to forge this kind of emotional bond? Well, let's open up the rhetorical toolbox and take a look. Okay, here are some of the big ones, the key linguistic markers. First, you get that claim of exclusivity. Phrases like, only I can, or I alone can fix it. It basically positions the leader as this one-of-a-kind savior. Then you have the us versus them framework, which makes your identity super simple and absolute. You're either with us or against us. You also see this constant framing of a crisis. Everything's an emergency, we're facing doom. That keeps followers in a state of alarm, looking to the leader for safety. And finally, you have to create clear enemies. Whether it's the media, migrants, or so-called elites, it gives the group a target for all their fears and frustrations.
Now, this isn't just some academic exercise in communication. This kind of rhetoric has profound, and I mean profound, real-world consequences. It can create a really dangerous path, one that leads directly from a style of speaking to scapegoating and discrimination.
And that brings up a really crucial question, right? Why is it that this particular style of communication so often intersects with racism and discrimination against minority groups?
Well, the answer is that this leadership style often needs a kind of pressure release valve, an outlet for all the blame. Think about it. If the leader is presented as the only solution, then any failures or problems can't possibly be their fault, right? So the blame has to be pushed somewhere else, onto an external group that gets labeled as the source of all the problems. This is classic textbook scapegoating.
And this is where you get this really toxic formula. Discrimination actually becomes the glue that holds the whole movement together. The identity of the in-group, the us, is built and solidified by defining itself against the out-group, the them. It's this idea of we are good, we are pure, we are strong, for one reason, because they are bad or corrupt or dangerous.
Okay, so understanding the problem is obviously the first big step. But what's the solution? What do we do about it? Well, the source material we're looking at also provides what you could call a counter blueprint, a set of tools for strengthening democratic discourse, not for manipulating it. So how do we build up our defenses against this stuff? First, by sharpening our own argumentation skills. Seriously, the ability to tell the difference between a claim, a frame, and a cold hard fact is like a superpower in today's world. Second, we need to strengthen our trust in institutions. A healthy democracy relies on processes, like the courts and a free press, not just devotion to one personality. And third, we have to practice pluralism. This is huge. In a strong democracy, disagreement isn't a betrayal. It's a feature, not a bug. It's what makes the whole thing work.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. It's a question I want you to carry with you as you watch and listen to the world around you. If a political style functions almost entirely through loyalty to a person, what happens when the facts get in the way? What happens when verifiable, objective reality directly contradicts that loyalty? It's a conflict that really defines one of the biggest challenges facing democratic discourse today.